What's up, bibliophiles, beer connoisseurs, and bath lovers? My name is Anna, and this is the Bathtub Book Club. Every week, I take a bath, read a book, and drink a beer, and then share my experience of those 3 Bs with you. So this week, for my 3 Bs, the book of the week is Chelsea Handler's Life Will Be the Death of Me. The beer I chose to pair with that title is Fin Du Monde, which means the end of the world. And the bath stuff that I'm using, so I had this bath bomb in my cabinet for a while now, and it was so well worn that it basically looked just like a balloon of drugs by the time I poured it into the bath. So I'm sitting in a bath of some unknown, questionable bath bomb that I've had for some time now and figured, well, I might as well use it. So that's the bath stuff that I'm using for this week. But let's go a little deeper into each of those things. So every week I will be featuring the 3 main Bs, books, beer, and bath stuff. But then I'll also be introducing and featuring an additional B. So it could be maybe a beard of the week, or a band of the week, or a bag of the week, or any other B-related thing that I'm feeling that week. So the 3 main Bs for this week, let's dive into this bath stuff. So like I said, I had this bath bomb in my cabinet for a while, and I'm not really sure how long of a while, definitely over a year. And when I took it out to put it in the bathtub, it was like wrapped up in like this shrink wrap, and it looked like a circle, it looked like a sphere, but as I started peeling back the layers of the plastic wrap, it started to very quickly lose its shape. So I was like, oh no, this is not good. Some unidentifiable bath bomb that I've had for X amount of months, maybe years. And so we need to get this over the tub stat because this shit is crumbling everywhere. So I ran it off in the tub and it made it look a very nice pinky color. So I'm sitting in a pink bath of some, hopefully, bath bomb and not like some shifty, sketchy balloon of drugs that I randomly had in my cabinet. So that's the bath stuff for the week. In the future, I will have identifiable bath products and bath stuff that I can share with you guys so that if you want to go out and pick it up for yourselves, you can do so. And I'll include links for all the things that I'm using, reading, drinking in the description for the video so that you can just click through and order it if you so choose, if you want to. I really like Lush cosmetics and Lush bath stuff, so I'll probably be featuring Lush stuff a lot. So that's the bath stuff for this week. Let's dive into the beer. All right, so the title of the book is called Life Will Be the Death of Me. And for every week when I choose my beer, I try to match it to either the theme of the book. More often than not, I try to match it with the title of the book. So when I was looking for this beer, I remembered this beer from, 2015? It was like 2012, 12, when everybody thought it was like the end of the world and like the Aztec or Mayan calendar, and it's like 12, the end of the world is coming, Judgment Day. So I remember going to a gastropub on that day, back 12, and they had this beer on tap, Fin Du Monde, and I tried it because end of the world is like, what's an appropriate apocalyptic beer? Oh, the end of the world. There you go. So I remembered it from 7 years ago now. And then when I went looking for it and found it, I'm like, yes, this is the beer for this week. It is appropriate, not only in title, but let me break down the description for you guys. So it says, Fin Du Monde recreates the style of beer originally developed in the Middle Ages by Trappist monks for special occasions. It's a golden ale, mildly yeasty, with notes of malt, fruit, and spice, followed by a smooth, dry finish. And I was like, Yes. Cheers. Drink to that. Drink. I was like, yes. Wow. That's a very appropriate description for the author of our book this week. A golden ale, blonde white woman, cool, with mildly yeasty notes of malt. So I looked up what the word yeasty means. I'm going to put this down because it's heavy. Me. Yes, get in frame. Beautiful. So I looked up what the word yeasty means, and it basically means like an agitator. And like an agitator in the fermentation process, or like an agitator generally, and gets things excited, gets things worked up, and in like the creative, productive kind of way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's basically everything that she's talking about in this book, is just like being like the life of the party and chaos and just agitated, in a state of constant agitation and on the go and doing and pushing. And I was like, yes, this beer is so appropriate, not just in title, but also in description. So cheers to La Fin Du Monde. Oh, and also, real quick. So that was the other thing that I loved about this beer. Okay. So not only is the title appropriate, not only is the description on point, but the location of this beer. So La Fin Du Monde is brewed by a brewery called Unibroue, and it's in Chambly, Quebec, Canada, which is on the east coast of North America, so east coast of America. And I looked it up on the map. Chelsea grew up in New Jersey, and I looked up like where in relation to New Jersey this brewery is. It's like an 8-hour drive. It's like they're in the same time zone. They're on the same coast. It's like from New Jersey up to Chambly, Quebec, Canada. It's like the distance from LA to San Francisco. So I was like, whoa, this is so perfect. This is definitely like some synchronistic beer shit going on right here. So I was very excited when I found the beer for all of those reasons. And yeah, cheers, you guys. So just by giving it a look, like I told you in the intro, I'm like learning more about beer, and I want to learn more about like identifying the aromas and the mouth feel and the body and all that, technical, legit brewer stuff. So let's take a look and take a moment to appreciate this beer produced by Unibroue. And you can see that beautiful golden color that they talk about. It has a very nice head. Let's give it a smell. Yeah, I'm still not very good with the smelling part. Let me top it off. Gotta keep it fresh. All right, so hopefully I will be able to pick up some of the characteristics they described. And look at that. Look at how beautiful that is. So it's a Belgian style triple. It's 9% alcohol. And it says for this style of beer, it doesn't say on the bottle, but I looked it up in my beer Bible because I'm trying to match up all my shit, make it look super legit. So it said that the best style of glass for a Belgian style triple, for a triple ale, is a goblet or a chalice. I didn't have any goblets or chalices lying around, so this was like the closest thing I could do. It's like my grandmother's old, like china, crystal, etched leafy pattern. You can't really see it, but yeah, so this was the closest thing I could do to a chalice or a goblet to bring out the most of the aromas in this beer. All right, so let me actually try to see if I can detect any aromas from this thing. I mean, there's a lot of aromas going on in the bathroom already between my tub and my own funk and all that good stuff, so let's check it out. Smells like foam with, I feel like April Ludgate from Parks and Rec right now, where they go on the wine tasting episode and she's like swirling the wine and tasting it and like wafting it. And she's like, yes, I taste notes of Robin's blood and your mother's butthole. Like, that's what I feel like right now. All right. But serious. Let's be serious. I'm going to try to smell out this beer. It just smells like foam. Okay, maybe if I taste it, I'll actually be able to like pick some stuff up. Okay, it tastes good. So on the back end of my mouth, like right before the swallow, it kind of has that more winey flavor. So like church wine. You guys remember church wine? Oh dang, church wine. So it gives more of like that, what does that remind me of? It's like a, not tangy, but and it's not sour. I don't know what word that is to describe it, but you know what I mean? Like that back of the mouth. Yeah, it's got that back of the mouth, nice, like smoothie wine. Like I definitely taste it on the back of my tongue more than anywhere else in my mouth. And I don't know how that, other than to describe it as like church wine, you kind of get like that church wine buzz on like the back of the roof of your mouth and the back of your tongue. I mean, it's delicious, so I'm just going to keep practicing. And sure enough, week after week of drinking these beers and actually making an effort to try to pick them out, I will be able to describe some stuff for you guys. Okay, so check it out, Fin Du Monde. It's great. And this goes without saying, but if you live in the United States, like, only drink if you're only 21. And if you live somewhere else, like Australia, New Zealand, or the UK, or South America, drinking age is 18. So drink within the legal requirements of whatever region you are watching this video from. Oh, it's good. Whatever it is, it's delicious. Okay, so now that that has been sufficiently sampled, so good. Let's dive into the book. All right. Chelsea Handler, Life Will Be the Death of Me. This is the first book of hers I've actually read. I've seen her Netflix show. I actually went to a live taping of her Netflix show in LA 2 years ago. It was the episode, it was in May 2017. Yeah, and Lily Singh was on the episode. So that was really cool because I was like second row from the front, second row center, and I kid you not, you guys, I was sitting right behind her BFF, Mary McCormick. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. But I was sitting behind her BFF, Mary, and I knew it was her because she was wearing her signature houndstooth print wool coat. So that was, and she also called her out in the middle of the show and said, "That's my best friend, that's Mary." So that was a really cool experience, getting to see her live. I had seen some of her stand-up stuff, and I really liked her when she was the co-star to Reese Witherspoon in the movie This Means War with Chris Pine and, oh, I forget the other guy's name. What's his name? He's on like The Tudors, and he was also Venom. What's the guy's name, you guys? What's his name? Oh my gosh, it's gonna bother me. It'll come to me though. It's like a 3-name name. Jonathan Rhys, Meyer. No, that's not right. It'll come to me. But if you're watching this, you probably already know exactly who I'm talking about. So it was the guy who played Venom. So it was him opposite Chris Pine. Reese Witherspoon was in the movie. She was one of the stars. And then Chelsea Handler was like her BFF, her friend, confidant. So I really liked her in that role. I thought that was really cool. So this is, back to the book. This is the first book of Chelsea's that I've read. And I'm glad that I started with this one. So, all right. So let's start from the beginning of the book. At the beginning of the book, she's describing basically like the first 2 chapters. She's diving into her own self-analysis of how privileged and entitled she is. And basically how privileged and entitled she has been her whole life because she's a blonde white woman. And so on the one hand, it was like, wow, this is really awesome. Like anytime there's any kind of self-reflection or personal, honest self-appraisals that anyone has, like that's when I feel like I really connect with people, because it's like you can see your flaws, you accept them, and you're also like making an effort to be better, to do better, to correct whatever inappropriate behaviors there may be, or you're making an effort. That's what I love about people. That's what really makes me feel connected to people. So on the one hand, I was like, yes, this is amazing. I'm so glad that she's like having these epiphany, life opening moments. The walls have been broken down. She's just like cracked open, because I went through my own like personal self-awakening, life awakening 5 years ago, and that was it was like 7 years ago now. And that was a very like intense like period of my life. It's just you're learning, you're growing, you're expanding, your consciousness is raising, like any kind of inner healing that needs to happen. It's a fucking intense period of time. Like you're just like examining your whole life up to that point, and reflecting on all of the things you've ever done, and seeing, holy shit, either I've been a garbage person my whole life, or I've been a coward my whole life, or I've just been super selfish and self-absorbed by whatever our thing is that we need to examine and then make an effort to overcome, correct, do better at. Like, it's intense. It's intense to really see ourselves. So on the one hand, I was so giddy reading through this of like, like all these things that she's recognizing about herself. But on the other hand, I was triggered as fuck. Like hearing her describe like how she was just baffled at the idea that she was entitled and privileged, and yet proceeds to describe how every summer her family would go vacation at the summer house in Martha's Vineyard. And I was like, you want to know what I did for the summers? My sisters and I stayed in our pajamas alone at home all day playing video games or watching TV, because we couldn't afford to go do nothing, and both of my parents worked full-time jobs. So yeah, it was just like this. It was a conflict of emotions the whole time. I was conflicted because on the one hand, I'm like so proud of her, and anytime anyone goes through any kind of like traumatic experience or personal awakening, personal healing, it's like, yes, that's a triumph. That's like a triumph for humanity, because that's like a raising of our collective consciousness, and that's good. But on the other hand, my human, basal, primal, like vicious kind of self was triggered as fuck, because my jealousy was coming out, and I was just like, oh, you got to go summer at Martha's Vineyard at your vacation house with your family? How nice. I sat around in my pajamas and had to pick up dog crap and do nothing all day. Like, so it was like it was twofold, and it was very revealing, because as she's going through her like inner healing and awakening and expansion, I was with her, like just still noticing, even in that, sure, my like sisters and I, my family may not have had a vacation home anywhere and summered anywhere, but we're still privileged, and I'm still privileged and entitled because I was born in America, I grew up in America, and even though relative to Chelsea, my childhood may not have seemed that swanky, it was still swankier as fuck than someone else who it wasn't born here, isn't born here, that whole like self-awareness kind of thing. So I really enjoyed the first chapter. And then I thought it was super ridiculous. So she's describing this situation on like the first 2 pages of how she's trying to turn her TV on, and how she has to call 2 of her assistants, one of which isn't even there, to like help her with this TV. And I'm just sitting here thinking, again, oh my gosh, like this is so great that you're identifying these things and you want to work on them. At the same time, learn how to work a goddamn TV. This is like basic human stuff. Like, come on. So I was just laughing and rolling my eyes and shaking my fist and like crying, like, it's okay, I'm only doing everything for myself all the time anyway, so it's like, okay, like, just, this will bring out so much of your own personal angst and whatever. I was laughing at the hilarity of the situation. I was frustrated at, like, when thinking in comparison, like, oh, here I am being so resourceful as fuck, using freaking boxes to prop up cameras and whatever else that I need to do, and you have 3 assistants helping you figure out how to turn on TV. Just, everything's relative, right, you guys? Everything is freaking relative to where we are at whatever point we are in our lives. And I was just laughing. Like, I was enjoying this moment of, like, being able to call her out to myself and to you guys through this video. But then also checking myself of, like, well, you know what? You got your own shit. So isn't that the pot calling the kettle black? So cheers to that. Cheers to everything being relative and nobody being able to cast the first stone, because we all guilty as fuck of something. All right. So she starts off by describing the hilariousness of her blissed life, of how these things started coming up for her. And then she starts basically throughout the rest of the book, she starts talking about her time in therapy with her therapist, Dan, and the things that came up for her in these moments, and some of the quotables that just really stuck out to me and that I really related to and really latched onto. So she talks very in depth about her relationship with her dad and basically how her dad is a garbage person. And one of the things that she said about him in a therapy session, is that my dad seemed like a boy who got big. And as soon as I read that, I was like, I feel you, sister. You're preaching to the choir, because that's exactly how I feel about my dad and most men of that generation and most guys that I've had the misfortune of dating, or as they call it, hanging out with in my 20s. They're all man children. They are all man children. It's like they didn't emotionally evolve past the age of 14 or 18, or if they got married early, like at 21 or before the age of 25, they stopped emotionally maturing at whatever age those major life things happen. Whatever age they got their big boy job, and that became their life for the next 20 years as they got married, had a house, started a family. And it's like it stunted their growth in all of the ways that it matters most. And it's not just a generational thing either, because I've noticed plenty of dudes from my generation going through this same process. We're all just going through this, like, acknowledgement, this midlife crisis way earlier. We're going through it in our mid-20s instead of our mid-40s to 50s. Like, instead of a midlife crisis, it's a quarter life crisis. And that's a very real thing. And on the one hand, it is, again, intense as fuck to be going through all this shit and realizing, like, just how little guidance you had and how fucked up your families were and how dysfunctional they were and how messed up you are and how much healing that you need to do to purge that shit so that you can be, like, a grounded, centered, balanced, like, sane human being. Like, so there's all that, but where was I going with this? It's not just a generational thing. It's a family karma thing. It's a point in time in where we are thing. We're in the age of Aquarius, if anybody puts any stock in that. You know, I follow astrology and astrological signs more so to, like, understand myself better than actually believing that it is, like, the true one. I don't believe that anything is the true one, anything. Everything is a tool, is a way for us to understand ourselves better and our place in the world better. Like, understand ourselves and understand the world better. That's it. So whether you place stock in a religion, or you place stock in science, or you place stock in worshiping the lizard god Zorp, like, whatever it is, it's just a way for us to understand ourselves better and understand the world better. Like, that's it. Case in point. for me. So yeah, so when she's talking about her dad and how he seemed like a boy who got big, it's like, yeah, I can relate to that. I can relate to having a father who's kind of like a man-child, and instead of being your protector and your caregiver, you're actually being the parent to them because of all of the, again, family historical karma and baggage and unresolved shit that has just trickled down through the generations, and you're the one shining a light on it and getting all the flack for it because you want that like pattern to stop with you. So I really related to her in that moment. And yeah, moving on. I love how much she loves her dogs and how she talks about them. So Chunk was my favorite. I got to see him on her show, which was amazing. But I also had a dog who looked very much like Chunk. He was a Keeshond German Shepherd mix of some kind. I named him Groot. He was the best. He's no longer with us. R.I.P. Groot. But he was the love of my life. And Groot will be resurrected. Just like in the movies, you guys. Groot took one for the team. He saved everybody by sacrificing himself. And then in the second movie, he came back as baby Groot. So even though Groot is no longer with me, he will be back and I will resurrect him as baby Groot. And he will be Groot once again. So I love the way that she talks about her dogs, because that was relatable. And it's just hilarious the way that she harasses them. Like, oh my God. Talk about boundaries, you guys. The way that she's just like all over them all the time and they're not about it. And that just like kind of makes her feel, oh, like, but you're my dogs. I own you. Like, you're supposed to love me. And this whole like battle between her dogs loving her nanny more or her housekeeper more than they love her is just like, oh my gosh, I would die. I would die. Out of everything in the world, your dog is supposed to be the one thing, or your animal is supposed to be the one thing in the world that just is loyal to you and only you. Like, you alone. Out of everything that they're, maybe not even your partner or your spouse or, your siblings, but your animal, your pet is supposed to be the one thing in the world that is supposed to be loyal to you. And I love that, how they're just not to her. I think that's hilarious as fuck. So yeah, really had a good time with that. And then when she talks about this other quote really got me, because I was like, yes, I feel this. I'm feeling you as you're going through your like processing and awareness and awakening. Like, I'm all for it. But she said, I had to get away from them in order to come back to them. And she's talking about her parents. She's talking about her family. And I feel that. That's where I am right now with my family. Because when you're like, I'm the black sheep of my family. I don't think that's any surprise. Excuse me. I'm the middle child. I'm the only water sign in my family. And I was also born in the year of the dragon, so I'm not compatible with any of the other Chinese zodiac animals in my family. So it was like, cool. I was born into this like den of wolves, basically, a den of lions, and I've had to fight and claw my way out. So I related to her in the sense that I need some space. I need some time away from them to just get my own shit together and to feel good about what I want to do, instead of, because my whole life has been constantly fighting for the validation of my family, constantly fighting for their attention, their appreciation, their affection, because also, to add to this hot steaming mess, they all went to USC. My sisters were both in the marching band, my dad went there, my aunt and uncle are both PhDs from USC, so I come from a huge Trojan family. And I was rejected. Not once, not twice, 3 fucking times, as an undergrad, a transfer, and for grad school. And it was a chip on my shoulder for a long time because I felt left out. They were all part of this big thing that meant so much to them, and I was left out. It was just another thing that I was left out of within my own family, that I felt excluded from, that I felt isolated from. And it felt like no matter what I did, it was always eclipsed or overshadowed by something going on in the Trojan Empire. For example, at my college graduation, my freaking, like, graduated with my bachelor's degree, we're sitting at my dinner to celebrate me. My freaking grandmother is talking about how my sister graduated the month before with her master's from USC. So even on a day that it was supposed to be about me, it's still about them, and my accomplishments aren't as important or matter as much as theirs do. So I got tired of like playing out that pattern that I was playing out of constantly trying to gain their validation and their approval and be accepted. And it's like, you know what? You guys do you. Those were your dreams. I'm happy for you. I'm going to go be happy for myself. And I'm going to do what I want to do. And I'm going to make my own way. And I'm going to make myself happy because I'm not feeling that in this interaction. And so seeing that in Chelsea's book, that she, at one point in her life, had to do the same thing. She had to move across the freaking country to California to give herself space to pursue what she wanted to pursue, to be who she wanted to be, without feeling like she constantly had to justify herself or her life choices to her family. I'm in the same place. So that was a mind-blowing aha moment. I need a drink because I'm parched. Hold, please. Yes. That's the good stuff. The end of the world, right? Cool. Okay. So the next quote that just like stuck out like a freaking shooting star is when she said, I thought about how sad men are, how little they know about helping women with their feelings. And I was like, yes, queen, yes, queen, yes, queen. Like, nailed it. Like, hammer on the head, just drove that point home. Like, duh. Because, again, going back to that first quotable about how men and her dad just seem like a big boy, a grown-up boy, man children. It's like, yes, it's the same thing. Like, I can relate to that on such a visceral level. A, because I'm a Scorpio. And B, because I'm a woman. So, intense emotions going on beneath the surface here. And I have learned throughout my life from observing people, from personal experience, that when it comes to men especially, if I sense in any way that you are not able to handle anything slightly uncomfortable for you, aka expressing emotions, even talking about them in a calm and rational way and just putting a name to them, I'm not going to say shit. Because I can already tell you can't handle it. And if I were to open up to you, you're going to make it about you instead of making it about me because I'm the one expressing my emotions. So this whole quote about how sad men are and how little they know and how helping women's feelings. Yes, we can go back to the argument that, oh, this is just how they're socially conditioned and blah, 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 blah. We need to change that. We need to stop using that as the default excuse and do something to change that culture. Why don't men know how to help women with their feelings? Because we're not teaching them how to help women with their feelings. So how do we solve that problem? We teach them how to help women with their feelings, how to just sit, and it's very simple. It is so freaking simple because right now the MO men have when women start expressing they have a problem or sharing their feelings, the MO is to go in and fix it. That's the kind of dad I had. He would go in and try to fix the situation. It's not about fixing the situation. It's about listening. Super simple, guys. All you have to do when a woman starts being emotional, aka expressing her feelings, sharing her feelings with you, all you have to do is sit there and listen and maybe nod and maybe smile and maybe say, that sucks. Oh no, book. We'll fix this. Okay, you're good. Beep, boop, beep, boop. Okay. crisis averted. That also reminds me of another Parks and Rec episode where Anne is pregnant and Chris is constantly trying to fix her shit. It's not about fixing the shit. We don't need you to fix the shit. If we need you to fix the shit, we'll ask you, hey, can you do this for me? Hey, can you help me with this? That's a question. Listen for the question. We'll ask you. But sometimes we just need to vent. It's just about, hey, I got a lot of shit on my chest right now that I need to get off my chest. Let's have a freaking beer. Let's sit in the tub. I need to unload. So I just need to vent this shit and I need somebody to listen. That's all it is. We just need somebody to listen. So PSA to the gentleman who may be watching this episode, with any of your female friends, sisters, mother, spouse, partner, whatever women happen to be in your life, or even men. Even men, because let's not be like gender specific with this. We all have masculine and feminine energy within us and have specific energetic needs that we need to fulfill. So this goes both ways. It's not binary in any sense. Anytime somebody needs to get something off their chest or have emotions they want to express, all you gotta do is sit there and listen. Be like, whoa, be like Flounder in that moment. First we were like, whoa, and then it was like, whoa, and then we were like, whoa. That's all you gotta do. Just listen. Cool. So when I came across that quote where she's talking about men and feelings in women, I just laughed. Like, yes, preacher to the choir once again. And then, so she talks a lot about her relationship to her older brother, Chet, who passed away. And that's pretty much like the underlying theme throughout the book, because that moment, that relationship has shaped her life, shaped her relationships with other people, especially men, significantly. And so at one point later in the book, she's talking about how her mom had cancer and how all of her and her siblings are at the hospital. And one of her brothers makes a joke. And she says, without the laughter, we'd all be dying too. And it's like, fuck. That's just next level stuff right there, because there have been many moments in my life where emotions peaked and got very intense in this whole like self-awareness, reflection, healing process. And I lost my sense of humor about life. Like I forgot how to laugh about things. And especially when we think about the way that the world is now, like the current social climate in America, like all of the things that have come to light, this whole awakening, this age of awakening that we're in right now, there are so many fucked up things happening that it's been difficult to laugh about shit. It's been so hard to laugh. And like, from personal experience in like the industry that I work in and just dealing with men in the workplace and interactions there, like just these little things that I didn't notice before, and I was always the dancing Keebler elf. I would always laugh shit off and just play along. I'd always play along because that was my personality. That was my energy. Just play along, didn't take anything seriously, just laughed it off, rolled with it, went with the flow, whatever. And now it's like the complete opposite. Just everything's so serious. I recognize what this comment means. I don't like the way it feels, but it's like I'm trying to find that balance. How do we find that balance of without the laughter, we'd all be dying? I feel like I'm dying a little bit. Like, of setting boundaries and being like, no, that's inappropriate, but then also being able to like play. That's what I'm trying to figure out. How do I reincorporate this feeling of playfulness when things have become so serious? And when so that's another thing. I'm 5'1", I'm brown, and I'm a woman. So I got a lot of things going against me in terms of people, aka the men I work with, taking me seriously, people in general taking me seriously, and being respected and recognized for my ideas, my contributions, and my leadership rather than my smile, which is great. So my younger self was always dancing around, happy, enthusiastic, vivacious, joking around and smiling. But now my adult woman self is like, I don't want your attention. I want your respect. And so it's made me like act more seriously than I actually am. And I don't like the way that feels because it feels like very heavy. But at the same time, there's like this fear of if I go back to being a dancing Keebler elf and just make light of everything, nobody's going to take me seriously yet. Quick example, I got really frustrated months ago when I was at the gym because a guy invaded my space and didn't even acknowledge that I was using the space, didn't even acknowledge that I was there. And I went on this rant, this passionate rant about this dude taking over my space. And rather than like seeing the problem in my heated, passionate, comedic tirade, all the dudes that were commenting on this video were saying, "Oh man, you're so hilarious right now." So it's like, if we make light of the situation, you're just going to laugh because we're making light of the situation. But if we are serious and we actually set boundaries, you don't want to be around us because you're intimidated and you think we're scary and we're not fun. And it's just like, fuck, I need a drink on that one. Fuck. So yeah, this whole without the laughter we'd all be dying. I need something to laugh about again. And I would like to feel comfortable laughing and playing, and still be taken seriously and still be respected for all those things. Right. So that's what I thought about when I read this quote in her book. Cool. So let's wrap this up because we're getting to the end of the episode. So by the end of the book, this was the one that just drove it home. She says, "The year I had to fall apart in order to come back together." And she talks about all of these things in her life that basically how her ivory tower just came crumbling down. And how she was seeing her therapist, Dan, and working on these behaviors and noticing these patterns and making an effort to do things to shift that in her life for her. And I related to that because I was going through the same kind of fucked up shit. Not the same as her, but I was going through some heavy shit around the same time as she was. And it was like, yeah, my life fucking fell apart 2 years ago. Fucking fell apart. I was seeing all the writing on the wall. And that was the other thing that she said too, where she had learned that she had, what was it? Where is it? Now that she had the tools to face it all. And it's like, yeah, I had gone through all of these different trainings for professional purposes, not even for like personal development growth purposes, but like I was learning these things as a result of the jobs that I had. And they were just like, the wheels were turning. And so I was recognizing the things that weren't working, and I was finally speaking up about them. The people in my life basically gave me a huge F you because they weren't ready to deal with it. They didn't want to face it. And that made me feel like really rejected and isolated. So between personal life blowing up in my face, professional life and instability in my professional life and career-wise and money-wise blowing up in my face royally, and my living situation not being like healthy, and all of these things just basically thrown into the freaking crock pot and blowing up in my face, it was like, okay, I need to take a huge step back because it just it reached the breaking point. It reached the breaking point of like the physical and the mental and the emotional breaking point. And I had to like fall apart in order to come back together. Or what I like to say, this is like my favorite, I lost my mind to come to my senses. You got to lose your mind to come to your senses. Like, unfortunately, unfortunately, more often than not, the things in life that cause us to really reflect on the situation or make dramatic changes for the better are traumatic situations. Whether it's the loss of a job, the ending of a marriage, the ending of a relationship, the tragic death of a pet, whatever the tragic loss of a family member, I think I already said that, I can't remember, like whatever it happens to be, it's the thing that just basically rocks our stability, that rocks our sense of security, that rocks our foundation in some way, that breaks our foundation in some way. It takes those situations, unfortunately, for us to actually take a step back and look at our lives and look at the way we're living our lives and look at and reflect on who we are as people. And then in that limbo, in that purgatory, decide to live differently or do better or be different or choose a different life than the one that we had been living. You hear about it all the time with people with near-death experiences and being born again, and we're all in those moments. We're all born again, maybe not in the religious sense into a certain religion, but we're all born again. It's like we shed that skin, we shed that shadow self, like after we've gone through that limbo purgatory of just self-reflection and healing, and then we emerge as a new self and get to like live the life that we were born into this world to live, the life of our own choosing, as opposed to one of reaction and habit and routine and ritual. So yeah, her book was, if you want to go into some like self-reflective, transformative, personal evolution, read her book, because it will change your fucking life. Like, as I was reading through her stuff, I had already gone through the same personal growth and development that she was talking about going through for herself. And so as I was reading it, I'm like, I feel you. Understand that. Been there. Oh, I did that too. And it was a game changer. So it was a fantastic book. It was a great example of yet another person who has gone through a traumatic, life-changing experience that affected them. Maybe, I don't want to polarize it by saying negative or positive, but it wasn't serving them in the best possible way. They reached a point in their life, a certain breaking point. It's like, it's the basic trajectory of any epic saga, right? It's like the heroine or the hero, like, has a goal, has an objective and ambition. They seek out to pursue that thing. They experience these challenges and obstacles along the way. There's like the conflict, the climax of the conflict, and then there's the resolution and all this stuff. I mean, that's probably not the most accurate in-depth synopsis of an epic saga, but like the general point, you get it. So that's essentially what she's describing in terms of her own life. So I related to it, I appreciated it, and I'm really happy for her that she's in this place where she feels more at peace with who she is and what she's doing, and has like some kind of purpose that she's working towards for herself, that she feels fulfilled by, and is working on those behaviors that have worked against her in the past. So Chelsea, cheers to you, Chelsea Handler, for your growth and your awakening. Wish you the best. And to everybody watching the book club, I highly recommend reading it with a beer in the bathtub. So that's it for this week's episode. If you would like to join the Bathtub Book Club, you can find me on social media at the Bathtub BC on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you would like to be a member of the Bathtub Book Club, you can find me on Patreon, and you can contribute to the Bathtub Book Club and participate in a weekly members-only book club meeting where we talk about the book, we talk about the beer, we talk about our bath stuff and self-care time and things we're doing to take care of ourselves. So if you guys want to become members and join me in a weekly book club meeting, I would love to talk about this shit with you and see what aha moments you had and what you took away from it and how it like shaped you, or what kind of epiphanies you had, because that's what's making the world go round, right, you guys? Sharing our collective experiences. So that's all for me. Until next time, cheers!